Welcome to the Stay Informed podcast. We're your hosts of Stay Informed, Tom
and Jessica.
Today we'll be talking about OCR, optical character recognition, what it is and what it is not. It seems that everyone has heard of OCR, but there's little agreement about how much it can actually do. So Jessica, you come from the world of auto finance, so you likely know your way around a deal jacket. Can you talk about what OCR does and where it may fall short?
Yeah, sure. So whenever I worked for lending industries, I was always told that OCR was not very good. And I kind of knew what the premise of OCR was, but I always fundamentally didn't understand why it was so bad, what made it. Like, we understood that maybe if your image quality is bad, that optical character recognition would not work. So that makes a lot of sense. If I have a bad image, I'm probably not going to be able to read all those characters and recognize them visually, right? That's optical. And then character is the stuff on the paper. And then recognition is being able to tell you what that stuff on the paper is. And so whenever I start hearing OCR technologies coming up and we're doing really great, there was like that question of like, why is it so much better now than it was before? And so whenever I started talking to the AI machine learning engineers, and they started saying, well, OCR fundamentally is the same across all platforms. They use the same kind of tools, if you will, to kind of like, run their engines, right? They're using the same kind of screwdrivers, same kind of, tools in their shed. But in reality, it's all of the AI, the learnings of what makes OCR better, the fundamental insights that are making some of those rules-based higher functions and ensuring that the OCR is accurate, as well as pulling up the information in a manner that is resilient to image quality issues, or resilient to a paper being folded across, so that it can really mimic what a person would see on a piece of paper.
Yeah, Jessica, I've played a little bit with OCR, and one thing I've noticed is sometimes you might see a really horribly printed piece of paper, or it might be really dark, it might be really blurry. Can we expect OCR to be perfect, or are there limitations in terms of, how important is the quality of the data?
Yeah, so that question comes up quite often, and I actually go through and look at image quality issues from deal jackets quite often, and you would not be surprised how bad some of those image quality issues are. You will see a picture of a picture, a fax of a picture, and sometimes they even include their cell phone. And so whenever you see those, you're like, wow, there's no way OCR or really AI technology on top of that OCR is going to be able to pull it. So OCR may not be able to, but really the kind of the context clues that we get within an entire deal jacket improves the OCR, and it allows the AI to get those and lift those images. So it is not perfect. There's times when maybe we haven't seen a form, our AI is not trained to pull off those data, but ultimately the technology can get off everything that probably a human could do. We often do tests where we evaluate, hey, can you pull this off? Maybe something the OCR, and time again, I see the clarity of, I have to like squint my eyes and pull up really close to the screen to see what was on that document. And the actual technology, AI technology, was able to lift it. So image quality does play an effect to just basic OCR, but the AI is really meant to establish that image quality is utilizing all the context clues so that we can get it as clear as possible. But then there are times that you get such a blurry image that's all black, and there's no way that even a person could read that information too.
I think people sometimes think about OCR as you have a textbook or, a novel, and you're reading words off the page. But isn't OCR a little bit more complicated than that? You have forms and images and shapes. And how does OCR work with a deal jacket in terms of images?
So we've been really great with, like I said, becoming more than just OCR, right? The AI technology. So OCR may be able to pull off, fields, but they're missing some of that. But because of the AI, we know that a VIN number should have X amount of characters. And in this fourth letter character, it should be an X. And so because of situations like that, we are able to use those context clues to make sure that the OCR is reading it accurately as well as effectively. Effectively, what that means is that our mission is to onboard an entire entire deal jacket without any human intervention. So we are making sure that we are doing higher functions, meaning that we are looking at a retail installment contract, we're reading it, and if we know that there's a vehicle service contract or a gap or a tire wheel expected within the deal jacket, we are then telling the technology to go out dynamically and looking for these context clues so that they can do it. In addition, our contributor database has millions and millions of documents that we've already seen. So oftentimes in a deal jacket, you may not get an entire vehicle service contract. You may just get the forms with the signature. However, we actually have the context as well as the documents of the entire form so that we can then tell you all the terms and conditions. We can get you all the cancellation fees, all of the things that are in very, very small words that you would really not even be looking for if you were just trying to onboard the loan. So not only are we trying to onboard it without human intervention, we're also getting all the information that is from a compliance and regulatory perspective. And I know you know really much a ton about compliance with your background. So can you give us some insight there, Tom, about how this helps us in compliance?
Well, I think one of the things you have to think about is whether or not your OCR technology is complying with things like fair lending or complying with disparate impact, and making sure that the technologies you have don't work better for certain parties versus others. And so you have to look at how you measure documents on multiple ranges of documents, because different populations use different documents. So I definitely think there are some compliance issues with OCR. And I guess I would turn it back to you, Jessica, with the final question, which is there a standard or minimum expectations a buyer should have when they're looking at a company's working in this space?
Yeah, I think one, it's really critical to make sure that you work with somebody that has the compliance aspect reviewed, because you're working with NPPI information, understanding that it's really important to make sure that your client and your information is secure from a perspective of that, because there's tons of privacy laws that we're coming up to. And then the secondary perspective is making sure that the organization has already pre-trained, that they're in this niche of understanding how this is going to be actually implemented. So once you get all this data off of these documents, like a lot of times it's data coma, right? Like you don't know what to do with all this data. So really having a mission greater than just pulling information off the document is really imperative, so that you can actually implement this OCR technology within your organization, that this AI information is really doing what you would want it to do from an action perspective, which is, like I said, we're trying to onboard your loan without any human intervention. It's not that we're trying to get every single field off of this document. We're trying to make sure that you don't have to have anybody review any of this information, because we've done all the checks and balances that you need from the perspective of from a compliant way, as well as meeting all your regulatory needs. So I think that that's a really big key issue, is that anybody can pull in information. We've been doing it for tons and tons of time. We've also been doing data entry, right? And so this has to be better than just data entry. Otherwise, there's no real reason to do it. And so that's kind of why we have this mission of making sure that you can automate your organization, that you are actually decreasing your cost of OpEx versus really just streamlining it.
Well, hey, thank you, Jessica. And thank you, audience, for getting informed and staying informed on OCR. Jessica, so thanks for sharing this information on OCR, and thank you, audience, for staying informed. I'm Tom.
And I'm Jessica. Stay informed.